You wake to the sound of chains rattling in the darkness. The stone beneath your body is so cold it burns. When you try to move, iron shackles bite into your wrists, pulling you back into the brutal reality that this is no nightmare. 3 days ago, you were a child chasing goats across green hillsides, helping your mother grind grain in your family's hearth. Now, that life feels like a distant dream, shattered when the slave traders swept through your village like a storm. Their eyes were sharp and practiced, appraising bodies with the same cold detachment farmers use to select cattle. Rough hands dragged you from the warmth of your home, ignoring your cries and your mother's desperate pleas. Your name was Kais, a simple Celtic name, passed down from your grandfather, but the moment those shackles closed around your wrists, that name was no longer yours. You were no longer a son, no longer a child. You had become a commodity, a body measured not in love or belonging but in value. One of the men spoke Latin in clipped, businesslike tones. Though you couldn't understand the words, you recognized the rhythm, the same rhythm your father used when bartering for livestock in the market. Except now, it was you they were pricing. A Greek assistant, eyes sharp as knives, ran his fingers through your hair as if testing the softness of wool, lifting your chin into the flickering torchlight. "This one will fetch a premium," he muttered, noting your fair coloring, your youth, your potential for training. And then came the words you understood without translation. "This one will do well." The sentence landed like a brand upon your skin. From that moment, you ceased to be Kais. You were property. The journey south blurred into a haze of dust and hunger. Crammed into wagons, dozens of children huddled shoulder to shoulder, some sobbing until their voices broke, others locked in silence so deep they seemed already gone. The guards struck those who cried too loudly, but strangely, they spared those who tried to learn. A few children whispered Latin phrases back to the men, desperate to gain favor. These were the ones you feared most, not the guards, but the children who adapted quickly, their survival instincts sharper than their grief. Days stretched into a nightmare rhythm, stale bread, a splash of water, and endless jolting as the wagons rolled toward Rome. Each evening the traders would check the chains, tightening them as if your very bones were cargo to be secured. You began to lose sense of time. Was it 4 days? 5? Your village, your family's faces, began to fade at the edges of memory, like mist burning away in sunlight. All that remained was the weight of iron, and the knowledge that you were being carried somewhere far from freedom. When at last the wagons halted, and the shouting of men grew more orderly, you caught your first glimpse of the slave markets of Rome. This was no chaotic bazaar of shouting merchants. It was something colder, more terrifying, a machine of commerce polished to perfection. Rows of platforms gleamed beneath torchlight, each prepared for a different kind of sale. Some displayed strong men destined for labor, others women chosen for household work or concubinage. But the platform you were forced toward bore a chilling title, Delicati, the delicate ones. It was not a marketplace, it was a gallery. Each child was scrubbed, perfumed, prepared as if they were artwork to be admired or purchased. The efficiency struck you with dread. Rome did not stumble into cruelty. It organized it, perfected it, made it a spectacle. You realized then that you were no longer in a world you understood. In your village, cruelty was a momentary act, a fight between men, a raid that ended with shouts and blood. But here, cruelty had been refined into a system, and you were its newest exhibit. The journey ends not with freedom but with a spectacle. When the wagons creak to a halt, the shouting of men grows sharper, more coordinated. The smell of the city presses in smoke from hearths, spices carried from distant lands, the unmistakable stench of too many people crammed into too little space. And then you see it, Rome's slave markets. It is not chaos, as you imagined. It is worse. It is order. Cold, merciless order. Platforms rise in neat rows, each designed with purpose. Here, broad-shouldered men destined for quarries or farms. There, women appraised for domestic labor or concubinage. And further on, the stage that makes your stomach turn, marked for delicati. The delicate ones. You are forced toward it with the others, herded like animals. Yet what awaits is not a pen or a cage. It is something far more insidious. Preparation. Attendants drag you into a bathing chamber, scrubbing your skin until it burns pink. Oil is rubbed into your flesh until you shine like marble, until you smell of flowers you've never seen. Your hair is trimmed, styled, arranged with the precision of a sculptor shaping stone. You realize what they are doing. Transforming you into an object of beauty, a commodity staged for desire. The comparison strikes you. Livestock at home were brushed and combed before market days, their coats made glossy, their strengths displayed to draw the best price. And now, you are the livestock. When at last you are led into the light, dressed in a plain white tunic, the buyers begin to circle. Their voices carry not pity but appraisal. They prod your arms, measure the span of your limbs, peer into your mouth to examine your teeth as though you were a horse. Some speak in broken Celtic, testing if you understand commands. Others watch your face, noting whether you flinch at their touch, whether tears well in your eyes. To them, every gesture is a calculation of value. This is not mere commerce, it is theatre. The market has the precision of a military campaign and the aesthetics of an art gallery. The delicati are displayed as treasures, as curiosities, as investments. Rome's elite do not merely want labor, they want beauty, youth, and submission, turned into possessions as carefully curated as statues or paintings. Around you, children are bought and sold with a nod, a signature, an exchange of coin, lives reduced to paperwork and wax tablets. You stand frozen, realizing that in this place, your worth is not in who you are, but in how you can be consumed. The market does not simply display you, it transforms you. What you thought was the end of the journey, the wagons, the chains, the fear, was only the beginning of something colder, something calculated. You are led into a chamber where attendants move with the efficiency of craftsmen. First, you are stripped bare. The humiliation is sharp, but there is no cruelty in their faces, only detachment. They do not see you as human. You are a task, a product to be readied. Buckets of hot water are poured over you, scalding at first, then soothing, washing away the grime of travel. Soap stings your eyes. Rough hands scrub until your skin glows raw, until not a trace of your old life remains. Then comes the oil, fragrant, expensive, glistening. It is rubbed into your skin until you shine, until the scent of roses and spices clings to you, masking the sweat of fear. Your hair is trimmed, combed, styled with practiced precision, every curl positioned to suggest innocence and beauty. A simple tunic of pure white is draped over you, its plainness deliberate a costume to emphasize youth, to provoke desire, to remind potential buyers that you are untouched. And then the inspection begins. The buyers circle slowly, their voices calm, dispassionate. One pries open your mouth, checking your teeth like you are a horse. Another measures the length of your limbs, tracing bone and muscle, as though you were marble being judged before it becomes a statue. Some test your comprehension, throwing Latin words at you, while others linger on your face, studying your reactions. Do you flinch? Do you cry? Do you resist? Or have you already begun to submit? The humiliation cuts deeper than chains. To them, you are not even livestock. Livestock had worth in strength, in endurance. You are evaluated in delicacy, in fragility, in your ability to please. Around you, other children undergo the same process. Some sob openly, earning sharp looks from buyers who prefer composure. Others stare blankly, already hollowed out by fear. A few, the ones who seem to draw the most attention, smile faintly, trying to please, parroting the words of their captors. It is a performance, and the stage is Rome's most merciless theatre. The market thrives not only on supply and demand, but on ritual. The Romans have perfected it. Just as gladiators were oiled and paraded before battle, just as feasts were staged as grand performances, so too is your body prepared for display. Beauty, Rome believed, was not natural, it was manufactured, curated, and consumed. And now, you are part of that system, transformed into an object designed to satisfy another's gaze. Among the circling buyers, one man stands apart. He does not rush, he does not haggle, he observes with the calm assurance of someone who already knows he will have what he desires. His name, Marcus Lucalis. He is in his 40s, his body softened by years of good living, but his eyes are sharp, the eyes of a man accustomed to evaluating, acquiring, and possessing. When he steps forward, silence seems to ripple among the attendants. His wealth, his rank, his authority, all speak before he utters a word. Lucalis studies you with the patience of a connoisseur. He tilts your face toward the torchlight, turning you slightly to examine the angle of your jaw, the symmetry of your features. His fingers press lightly against your shoulders, your arms, testing form as though you were marble to be sculpted. His lips purse, not in cruelty, but in calculation. How old? He asks, though it is clear he has already judged. 12? 13? The dealer nods. Young enough to be molded, old enough to entertain. Lucalis's eyes flicker with satisfaction. He will age beautifully. The words cut deeper than any whip. They speak not of who you are, but of what you will become, and when you will cease to matter. Your value is measured in years, in the fleeting span before youth turns to manhood, before beauty fades. Even in purchase, you are already disposable. Money changes hands. A wax tablet is signed. It happens quickly, with the efficiency of buying bread, as though no human soul hangs in the balance. And just like that, you belong to Marcus Lucullus as completely as his sandals, his toga, his cup of wine. He does not speak to you directly. Slaves do not merit words. Instead, he gives instructions to a steward who will escort you to your new home. Yet you feel the weight of his gaze as you are led away, the cold certainty that every step of your future will now unfold within the orbit of his will. The villa awaits. Marble walls, painted frescoes, fragrant gardens, all designed not for freedom, but for control. For Rome, beauty is never innocent. It is power, sharpened and polished, wielded by those who can afford it. And now, you are to be one of those polished ornaments, trained, molded, consumed. The journey from the market to your new master's home is short, but each step feels like a lifetime. When at last you are led through tall bronze gates, the world before you seems unreal. The villa of Marcus Lucullus rises like a palace, marble columns gleaming in the sun, walls painted with vibrant frescoes of gods and heroes, floors inlaid with mosaics so intricate they seem to ripple under your feet. It is beauty beyond anything your village life could have imagined. And yet, every detail cuts like a blade. You realize quickly that the villa is not a home. It is a stage, a theater for power. Every painted wall, every manicured garden, every statue placed in careful symmetry is designed not for comfort, but for display, for guests, for prestige, and for control. The air itself is intoxicating. Gardens overflow with exotic plants whose scents hang heavy and sweet. Pools reflect sunlight like sheets of silver. Servants move in silence, their faces composed, their hands swift. There is no chaos here, no shouting, no crude laughter, only order, perfect, suffocating order. And you understand. Beauty here is not freedom. It is the mask of captivity. The mosaics are chains laid in stone. The perfumes are the scent of gilded cages. The silence of the servants is the silence of fear. You are given a chamber, not a prison cell, but a small, immaculate room with a bed, a basin, and linens finer than anything you've ever touched. Yet even this kindness is part of the design. Comfort is not mercy. It is preparation. The villa is a machine, and you are to become one of its polished instruments. As you are left alone for the first time, your thoughts whirl. The villagers who raised you, the hills where you once ran, the simple hearth of your mother's fire, all seem like shadows fading at the edges of memory. You realize with dread that Rome has already begun its work. It does not merely chain your body, it seeks to reshape your mind, to cover your past with marble and gold until you no longer remember who you once were. Your new life begins not with chains or beatings, but with lessons. The man assigned to you is Alexandros. His hair is threaded with grey, his eyes sharp but tired, his posture graceful in a way that hints at another life. He was once what you are now, becoming a delicatus, a favourite. Time has carried him beyond youth, but survival has granted him a different kind of power. He now manages those who take his place. Alexandros does not treat you with cruelty, but neither does he treat you with affection. His manner is professional, efficient, detached the way a craftsman might handle clay he must shape. Perhaps this is his kindness. He knows better than to pretend that tenderness will save you. He outlines your schedule with the precision of a military officer. Mornings will be devoted to language. Latin, of course, the tongue of your masters, but also Greek, for no Roman household of status is complete without Greek culture flowing through its veins. You will learn not merely words, but tones, how to address a senator without offense, how to flatter a merchant without seeming servile, how to speak intelligently without ever appearing to challenge your master. Afternoons belong to literature and poetry. You will memorize the verses of Virgil, Ovid, and Horace, not because you love them, but because your master may summon you to recite them. Alexandros warns you that recitation is performance, not scholarship. You are not to interpret too deeply, only to please. Arithmetic and philosophy follow. You are expected to quote Plato and Aristotle, to understand Epicurus, to recite maxims that show refinement. Knowledge itself is not freedom, it is decoration, as carefully chosen as the mosaics on the villa's floor. And then there is music. Alexandros places a lyre in your hands, showing you how to coax notes that shimmer like light across water. For a brief moment, you feel something close to escape the strings vibrating in your chest, carrying you somewhere beyond marble walls. But even this refuge is claimed by Rome. Each melody you learn is chosen to please Marcus Lucullus's ears, not your own. Alexandros ends the day with deportment: how to walk without haste, how to lower your eyes at just the right angle, how to sit with elegance, poised yet deferential. You are being sculpted into more than a servant. You are being fashioned into an ornament, intelligent enough to entertain, beautiful enough to display, obedient enough to control. In Alexandros's gaze you see no hatred, no pity, only survival. He has mastered the art of detachment, and in his silence lies a warning. If you want to endure, you must learn to live as both person and shadow. Your mornings unfold in relentless discipline. Alexandros insists that the tongue is as important as the body, and Rome demands mastery of both. You begin with Latin. At first the words feel heavy, strange, clumsy in your mouth. Yet Alexandros corrects you patiently, drilling you in the clipped phrases of command, the subtle forms of respect, the tones that distinguish a servant from a companion. Then comes Greek, a language older, softer, and more refined. To the Romans, Greek is the voice of culture, philosophy, poetry. In their eyes, to speak it well is a mark of education. And so you learn, word by word, until your mind is caught between two worlds, your lost Celtic tongue fading, Latin and Greek pressing in to erase it. But Alexandros does not stop at vocabulary. He teaches you how to use language as performance. A senator expects words that flatter his dignity. A merchant expects brevity and wit. A philosopher expects a touch of learning, but never enough to overshadow his own. Every syllable becomes a test, every phrase a balance between intelligence and submission. After language comes literature. You recite Virgil's epics, the tales of Aeneas building Rome's destiny. You memorize the verses of Horace, odes to wine and beauty, and the passionate lines of Ovid, whose stories of gods and lovers mirror the frescoes painted on the villa's walls. Alexandros warns you, you are not here to interpret, you are here to entertain. If your master laughs, you must laugh with him. If he grows silent, you must lower your eyes. The poems are not lessons for your soul, they are ornaments for your master's pleasure. Philosophy follows. Plato, Aristotle, Epicurus. Their names fall like weights upon you. You repeat their maxims until they are etched in your memory, even if you cannot yet grasp their meaning. For Marcus Lucullus may ask you to quote them, not because he seeks wisdom, but because he wishes to display refinement before his guests. Knowledge, you begin to understand, is not freedom here. It is decoration. You are being shaped into a living library, a voice to recite truths that you yourself are forbidden to live. In the afternoons, you take up the lyre. The strings vibrate under your fingers, at first clumsy, then smooth, until notes shimmer like light through water. For a fleeting moment, music feels like escape. The sound rises, pure and unclaimed, carrying you beyond marble walls. But Alexandros reminds you, each melody you learn is chosen for one purpose, to soothe or delight Marcus Lucullus. Even beauty is not yours to keep. By evening, you are exhausted, yet the lessons linger. You realize that Rome does not merely conquer through armies. It conquers through words, through culture, through the slow reshaping of thought itself. You are not only being trained to serve, you are being remade, piece by piece, into something that will please Rome, and in the process, the boy named Caius grows fainter, his voice drowned beneath the languages of empire. If the mind was Rome's first conquest, the body is its second. Alexandros explains this with chilling simplicity. Your master purchased beauty. Our task is to preserve it. Your diet changes immediately. Gone are the hearty grains and meats of your village. In their place, small measured portions of bread, fruit, and watered wine. Enough to sustain, never enough to strengthen. The goal is not muscle but softness, not endurance but delicacy. You are to remain youthful as long as nature will allow, and longer, if the villa's physicians have their way. They bring herbs that dull appetite, oils to rub into your skin until it shines like polished ivory, tinctures said to slow the onset of manhood. Daily baths become ritual, warm water, perfumed oils, pumice stones to smooth every rough edge. You emerge from them not as yourself, but as a crafted version of yourself, a statue molded in flesh. Exercise is not meant to harden you but to shape you. Instead of running or lifting, you are made to walk with balance, to stretch so that your body appears supple, to sit in postures designed to accentuate form. You are not being trained for strength, you are being sculpted for display. And it is not only the body that bends. The process seeps into your spirit. With each treatment, each controlled bite of food, each bath where attendants scrub the remnants of your past away, you feel less like Kais and more like something else, something curated, refined, owned. Rome's obsession with beauty is not innocent. It is power disguised as art. Statues of Ganymede and Antinous adorn gardens, their forms eternal, their stories whispered with admiration. Now you understand. Rome wishes to make you into one of them, a living ornament, an echo of myth. But statues cannot speak, cannot resist. That is the design. The villa's perfection surrounds you, but inside, you begin to wonder, how long before the sculpting is complete? How long before the boy you once were is carved away entirely? The lessons of language and beauty were only the beginning. The true conquest, Alexandros tells you without saying the words, is not of the body or the mind. It is of the name. One morning, when he addresses you, he does not call you Kais. He calls you Ganymede. At first you do not respond. The name feels foreign, heavy, not yours. Alexandros repeats it, sharper this time. That is who you are now. Kais is gone. The name clings to you like a second skin you cannot remove. Ganymede, the boy from myth, the shepherd plucked from the hills of Troy, carried by Zeus to Olympus to serve as cupbearer, lover, ornament. Romans tell the story with admiration, even envy. To them, it is not a tale of abduction, but of honor, a mortal elevated to divine company. To you, it is a warning. The gods of Rome, like its masters, disguise domination as destiny. Each time someone calls you by this new name, a piece of your old life erodes. The memory of your father's voice, your mother's arms, the hills of your homeland, they begin to blur. Alexandros notices your hesitation and speaks in his cool, distant tone. Your past was a dream. This is your awakening. Do not look back. You realize then that Rome does not need whips to enslave. It erases and replaces. It strips away your history, gives you a new story, and demands you believe it. In time, perhaps, you will forget the boy you once were. That is the goal. Around the villa, frescoes of Ganymede's myth decorate the walls. You see yourself reflected in painted figures, the beautiful boy gazed upon by Jupiter, desired and possessed. Guests smile when your name is announced, pleased by the clever illusion. You are not simply a slave, you are a symbol, a living myth. The cruelty is subtle, insidious. To the Romans, renaming you is not an act of violence but of refinement, a way of polishing a gem. To you, it is theft. They have taken not only your freedom, but your very identity, and replaced it with a story that glorifies your captivity. Each night, you whisper your true name in silence, afraid even to let the walls hear it. Kais. You cling to it like a secret flame, fragile, flickering, but still alive. You tell yourself, if you can remember the sound of it, you are not yet completely theirs. 3 weeks after your arrival, the summons comes. Alexandros tells you nothing of comfort, only instructions. The choice of tunic is deliberate. Soft fabric that clings to your slight frame, dyed plain to emphasize purity. He arranges your hair so it catches the lamplight, applies subtle touches of powder to hide fatigue and bring out the gold in your skin. Every movement is practiced. You are not being dressed. You are being staged. Remember, Alexandros murmurs, adjusting the line of your collar. You exist for his pleasure. Your thoughts, your desires, your fears, none of these matter. What matters is that you anticipate what he wants before he must ask. His words are not cruel, they are resigned. Survival is the lesson, and this is how he teaches it. The walk down the corridor feels endless, though it spans only a few dozen steps. Your bare feet make no sound on the marble, yet your heartbeat hammers so loud you fear the guards at the chamber door can hear it. They do not look at you as they step aside. To them, you are invisible, an object passing from one room to another. Inside, Marcus Lucalis reclines upon a couch upholstered in silk, a scroll half open in his hand, a cup of wine at his side. He wears no toga of authority, only a simple tunic, but the simplicity makes him more imposing. Authority radiates from him not in costume, but in certainty. He does not look up. "Come here, boy," he says, his tone the same one he might use to summon a servant or a dog. You step forward cautiously, stopping just beyond his reach. Only when he gestures do you move closer. Turn. The command is clipped, practiced. You obey, slowly, as he studies you from every angle, noting the careful work of Alexandros, the oil upon your skin, the symmetry of your features. His eyes weigh you, not with lust alone, but with ownership. He nods once, satisfied. Yes, you will do. And in that moment, you understand. Every bath, every lesson, every whispered correction was leading here. You are not a person in this chamber. You are a crafted possession, brought before the man who paid for you, waiting for him to decide how you will be used. The torchlight flickers, casting long shadows upon the walls, and you feel it the moment your old life recedes entirely into darkness. Days settle into a grim, precise rhythm. Your mornings begin with recitation and diction under Alexandros's watchful eye. Your afternoons pass in lessons of etiquette, music, and the small, exacting arts of being seen without speaking. Evenings are reserved for the company of your master and his guests, but not as a friend or equal. You exist to reflect his taste, to make his household look cultured, refined, enviable. At first, the variety of your tasks astonishes you. You are expected to converse about the latest news from the forum, to remember details of political gossip, to quote a line of Virgil that will amuse a specific senator. You learn which names to drop when certain guests arrive, which stories to tell that will flatter a particular magistrate's pride. Knowledge itself becomes a kind of currency. The right anecdote at the right moment can earn a nod, a small favor, a quieter room that feels almost like safety. Your education is not merely academic, it is performative training in constant human navigation. Alexandros teaches you how to carry a tray so that it seems effortless, how to stand in a doorway in such a way that you frame your master's guests rather than intrude upon them. There are rules for the tilt of your head when speaking, the precise interval at which you must applaud a recitation, the manner of laughing that is warm but never intimate. Each rule is a thread in a larger social tapestry. To pull the wrong thread is to risk unraveling everything you have been taught. The villa's life is one of simultaneous abundance and restriction. You are clothed in fine linens and fed delicately prepared food, yet your portions are measured and your movements monitored. You hear the music of the household more refined than anything from your village, but the melody is always oriented toward pleasing those who listen. The lyre in your hands, which once felt like private solace, now functions as another instrument of representation. Each song you play must reflect your master's sensibility. This constant comparison with art and ornamentation takes its toll. Where once you measured yourself by the warmth of the hearth and the strength of your limbs, you now learn to measure your worth in the eyes of others. The applause after a successful recitation warms you like sunlight, but that warmth is conditional. It depends on someone else's mood, on the taste of a single man who can change his favor with a turn of phrase. Pride and humiliation are interwoven. A compliment feels like a life raft. A silence feels like sinking. Among the villa's other residents, you begin to discern patterns, strategies for survival that are, in their own ways, acts of ingenuity. Alexis, who arrived months before you, has learned to read Marcus Lucalis's temper and to steer it gently. He times his wit to diffuse a guest's boredom, offers small observations that flatter pride without seeming sycophantic. Dionysos, quieter and more withdrawn, has taken another tack. He disappears into diligent service, becoming indispensable in household tasks so that, beyond his form, the household needs him. You find yourself experimenting with these strategies. Sometimes you keep your head low and perform with careful precision. Other times you offer a pertinent comment that lights a room and wins a smile. From these moments, you learn that value in this world can be more than mere appearance. It can be utility, wit, emotional steadiness. The villa rewards versatility. Those who can shift between roles, entertainer, companion at dinner, efficient manager of small duties, tend to endure longer. Still, endurance comes with its own costs. The villa shapes not only your manners but your inner life. The boy you were grows quieter by necessity. Memories of your village become like small, secret tokens you tuck away. There are moments when a particular scent, bread, smoke, a field flower, flings that hidden door open, and grief spills out. A flash of your mother's hands, the tilt of your father's head. But the household demands composure. Tears are met with averted eyes and swift correction. So you practice containment, learning to press those memories into a private corner and bring forward only the behavior that preserves your place. At times, the role you perform feels like an armor. At others, it is a cage. You begin to notice a subtle transformation in the way you think. Where you once dreamed of futures shaped by your own hands, you now measure options against a very narrow set of possible outcomes. The training that taught you eloquence also taught you how to defer. how to anticipate demands and meet them before they are voiced. That skill keeps you fed, keeps you sheltered, but it also reins in the possibility of dreaming new dreams. Freedom becomes an abstract concept rather than a reachable horizon. Yet even within these confines, small resistances remain. You cultivate tiny private rituals, the way you fold a scrap of cloth, the precise alignment of a flower in a vase, the brief, carefully hidden scrap of a song played softly in the pre-dawn hours. These smallest of acts are private declarations that part of you survives unchanged. They are not grand rebellions, but they sustain you. They remind you that the identity you carry cannot be entirely erased by lessons and tunics. So you adapt. You become adept at being seen and not known, at reflecting light without being burned by it. You learn the rhythms of the household until they feel like a second heartbeat. And in the quiet moments between lessons and duties, when the villa's noise recedes and memory presses close, you whisper your true name, Kais, to the dark, and the sound of it roots you to a life that, though distant, still belongs to you. In the quiet hours, when the villa's corridors echo only with the shuffle of servants, you begin to notice the unspoken rules of survival. Alexandros never explains them outright, but you see them practiced in the lives of the other boys. There is Alexis, a Syrian boy with quick wit and sharper instincts. He has learned the art of adaptation so well it borders on manipulation. He knows precisely when to speak, when to laugh, when to feign ignorance. To watch him is to see survival as strategy. He thrives not by resisting, but by reading moods, steering conversations, and making himself useful beyond his appearance. He whispers to you, now and then, secrets about how to please a guest, how to interpret Marcus Lucalis's subtle expressions, how to anticipate needs before they become demands. Alexis does not call it power, but you recognize it for what it is: influence disguised as obedience. And then there is Dionyos, a Greek boy who has lived in the villa longer than either of you. He moves through the rooms like a shadow, beautiful, composed, and utterly absent. He obeys commands with flawless precision, but his eyes reveal nothing. It is as though he has hollowed himself out, erasing whatever spark once lived there. The others whisper that he has surrendered completely, that his obedience has become instinct. To some, this looks like peace. To you, it feels like a kind of living death. Between these extremes, Alexis's calculated maneuvering and Dionyos's empty submission, lies a fragile middle path. It is the one you try to walk. You perform as expected. You speak when spoken to. You recite the words Alexandros taught you. You follow the rhythms of the household. But in the quiet of your mind, you cling to fragments of yourself. Your true name, whispered in silence. A memory of your father's laugh. The scent of heather from the hills. These are your hidden talismans, small rebellions against a world determined to strip you of everything. Survival here is not only about endurance, it is about balance. Too much defiance, and you will be broken. Too much surrender, and you will be erased. To endure, you must learn to bend without snapping, to bow without breaking. What astonishes you most is that Rome, in all its glory, depends on this system. Behind its marble columns and golden palaces lies a machinery of exploitation so smooth, so efficient, that the outside world scarcely notices. Senators debate laws in the forum, poets sing of destiny, generals march across foreign lands all the while, countless silent lives like yours fuel the spectacle. In time, you begin to understand what Alexandros meant when he said survival is an art. It is not about clinging to who you were. It is about carrying a thread of yourself through the storm, thin and fraying, but unbroken. And in that thread lies a truth Rome cannot erase, that you are more than the role they have written for you. Seasons turn, though inside the villa time feels strangely frozen. Outside, Rome expands, new conquests are celebrated, temples rise, senators argue beneath marble arches. Inside, your world shrinks to routines and expectations. But your body betrays the stillness. You begin to change. A voice that was once light and high trembles with new depth. Muscles tighten in your arms, no matter how carefully your diet is controlled. Fine hairs appear on your face, unwelcome reminders that youth cannot last forever. Every change carries anxiety. Alexandros notices the shifts with his cool, assessing gaze. He adjusts your meals, increases the herbs meant to soften your frame, insists on longer baths with perfumed oils to preserve the illusion of youth. The villa's physician prescribes treatments, bitter drinks, ointments rubbed into your skin, each one another attempt to hold back time itself. You learn quickly that the most dangerous enemy here is not rebellion, but age. The villa prizes what is fleeting, To remain valuable, you must mask what is natural. You are praised when you look delicate, pitied when a shadow of manhood creeps into your features. Praise means survival. Pity means replacement. Among the other boys, the cycle becomes visible. You see newcomers arrive wide-eyed, trembling, scrubbed and perfumed just as you once were. They look at you as if you are seasoned, experienced, perhaps even safe. Yet you know the truth. Your place exists only because theirs is still uncertain. Older boys disappear quietly. Some are sold to other households, their beauty deemed past its prime. A few are manumitted with small pensions, a Roman gesture of generosity that cannot erase years of control. Others simply vanish, their absence explained by nothing more than silence. In the villa, life continues as if they never existed. You realize you are witnessing an unspoken rhythm, as inevitable as the tides. Youth arrives, is polished, displayed, and then replaced. The villa's beauty rests on this cycle, endless renewal through human lives treated as possessions. Time, once your ally in childhood, has become a threat. Each sunrise is a gift, but also a reminder. Your usefulness has an end. And with that knowledge comes a new kind of fear, not of chains, not of punishment, but of being forgotten. It does not end with a whip, nor with rebellion, nor even with open dismissal. Your end in the villa arrives as quietly as your beginning. Alexandros calls you aside one evening, his face calm, his voice measured. "The master has arranged your manumission," he says. The word freedom strikes you like a blow. For years you have whispered your true name in the dark, clung to scraps of memory, dreamed of release. And now, at last, it comes. Yet the manner of it unsettles you. There is no farewell, no ceremony, only a simple transaction, as unremarkable as when you were purchased. Marcus Lucalis has grown older, heavier, his interests shifting toward newer acquisitions. You, once a prized ornament, are now too close to adulthood to serve the role he once demanded. Your value has changed. And so, with the same efficiency that defined your entrance into his world, you are prepared for departure. They speak of it as generosity. You are to be given a modest inheritance, a few coins, some clothing, a letter of recommendation that will open doors to employment in another household, perhaps even in a senator's service. Alexandros explains that your education, your languages, your manners, your knowledge of poetry and philosophy has made you suitable for respectable positions. You may work as a tutor, a secretary, a household manager. You may, with diligence, even rise to wealth and influence. But the irony cuts deep. The very skills that now mark you as valuable in the legitimate world were forged in years of exploitation. Your eloquence was shaped not for your own growth, but for someone else's pride. Your composure was trained not for your dignity, but for someone else's comfort. The man you have become was constructed within the villa's walls, and though you walk out of them, they remain inside you. Freedom, when it comes, does not feel like liberation. It feels like displacement. The rhythm of your days, once dictated down to the smallest detail, is gone. No one tells you what to wear, how to stand, what to say, but you find that you do not know what you want, either. Years of anticipating another's desires have hollowed out your own. Choice, once a dream, now feels like a burden. You step through the gates, leaving behind marble floors and painted walls. The air tastes different, freer, sharper. Yet the chains you carried were never only iron. They were habits, instincts, fears, and a silence that still clings to your thoughts. For the first time since you were dragged from your village, you walk without command. But each step is uncertain, as if the ground itself is testing whether you truly belong to it. The villa fades behind you, its marble halls swallowed by distance, its painted gods left to watch over new captives. Yet the imprint remains, carved deeper than stone. Freedom does not erase memory. It sharpens it. You carry scars, both visible and invisible. The calluses of shackles may fade, but the reflexes remain. The instinct to anticipate another's needs, the hesitation before speaking, the weight of silence pressing on your tongue. Years of training cannot be unlearned in a single breath. You walk in open air, but the walls of the villa march with you, shadows that cling no matter how far you travel. History will not remember your name. Rome will celebrate Marcus Lucalis as a patron of the arts, a man of refinement, a senator whose villa was famed for its beauty. It will praise poets, generals, emperors, men whose triumphs filled the annals of the Republic and the Empire. But the children who passed through those torchlit corridors, they will not be written down. Their voices will be lost. their lives reduced to footnotes at best, more often erased entirely. And yet, your story and theirs lingers in the silence. In the cracks of marble where time has worn away the polish, in the faint outlines of frescoes that once depicted myths of Ganymede, in the broken amphorae buried beneath Roman soil. The empire chose not to record such suffering, but absence itself speaks. The truth is this: civilizations are not built only by emperors and soldiers. They are built upon the unseen, the hands that carried water, the backs that bent beneath stone, the children who were polished into ornaments and discarded when time betrayed them. Rome's grandeur was a mask, and behind it lay countless forgotten lives. Centuries have passed. The empire that consumed so much has itself decayed, its palaces crumbled, its power scattered into dust, yet the pattern survives. In every age, those with power seek to own beauty, to shape it, to silence it. The faces change, the methods evolve, but the dynamic endures. Remembering these stories is not only about honoring the past, it is a warning for the present. For if we do not listen to the silences of history, if we do not acknowledge the unseen lives that sustained empires, we risk repeating their cruelties in new disguises. Your name may be forgotten, Kais, but your dignity endures. In remembering you, and all those like you, we reclaim the voices Rome tried to erase. The marble halls are gone, but the echo of your humanity remains.